What's going on, guys? Chris here with 4K Motoring, and today we're going to start off with a little controversial topic. I want to discuss why the base model Corvette, the Coupe, is better than the Z06. Alright guys, well, before everybody here starts hating me, I want to give you guys a little context of what I mean when I say the Coupe is better than the Z06. Obviously, I don't mean that it's faster or quite as good looking, frankly, as the Z06 is for most of the generations. So, just to clear that up, what I mean is for most people, for the street legal car, for the driver's car, the Coupe is better than the Z06. Now, I'm going to speak mostly about the C5 generation, but the topics I'm bringing up are definitely true of just about most of the following generations. The Z06 line, kind of being that performance boosted line, is really a C5 and up sort of thing. So obviously I did my video on the new C8 Z06. Amazing car, but for the average owner, terrible option. So let's talk about what you get with the Z06. With the Z06, in every generation, you're getting a bump in power. It's got a different power plant under the hood that's producing, frankly, more power. And, I mean, in the new Z06 in a big way. And that's been constant through all the generations of Z06. You get a little bit of suspension stuff, depending on the generation. The C5, you get some stiffer springs, you get different wheels. I mean, there's some boost there, so you have greater traction and better suspension. For, you know, a racetrack, I guess I should say. It's not necessarily better, it's just more race car oriented suspension. And truly, like the C5, you don't have this big hatch in the back to put stuff in. The glass is a little bit thinner. You're getting a race car. The Z06 is a race car package. I know a lot of you guys know that already, but my point is that it sounds really cool to have one, but you got to be honest with yourself and really ask yourself how often you're taking it to a racetrack. The extra power sounds great, but you have to consider the downsides to that power. The first and probably most obvious one is reduced fuel economy. The C5 itself here gets 30 miles per gallon for the base coupe manual transmission version on the highway. You're not going to get that with the Z06. You're just not. So when you're talking about cost of ownership and cost of driving it, it's going to be a more expensive vehicle to operate. When you're talking about the brakes, the suspension, the tires, the clutch, the driveline, all of those are going to get more stress and they're all going to wear out faster. So they're all going to be more expensive to replace because they're made to hold more power and wear out faster. It's just, you're going to go through tires, you're going to burn up clutches, brakes are going to wear out and they're going to be significantly more expensive to replace. All these things are factors that you have to consider when you're getting the race car version of the car as opposed to just the base model. One thing else to include is the storage space in the back. Obviously the hatch in the coupe, this one's mostly for the C5 generation specifically. You just get more room, more total volume to book cargo. The Z06 in this model is the fixed roof coupe. It's available obviously a year earlier in not the Z06 model, but mostly the fixed roof coupe are the Z06 models. And although you still get the same trunk, the actual inside pan, this is a flat trunk on the back. The storage is segmented and it's just not as much. So it's probably adequate for some basic stuff, but for just a daily driver, a grocery getter, something that you can actually depend on to drive daily and to not make a whole lot of compromises with, it may not be the ideal car for you. If you have a Z06, let me know in the comments and let me know how it is, what you really use it for, and how it does that, especially if you've had both the Coupe and the Z06. Obviously, from the C5 generation, there are quite a few concessions to get the Z06 variant of the car as opposed to the Coupe. When you start going to the C6 and up, the cargo space and some of the base features stay the same, but you start really ramping up those performance gains, which diminish your efficiency and just overall comfort driving the vehicle. So that's a very tough trade-off to make, and the Z51 package has done pretty well to kind of bridge that gap and give you extra performance and extra sportiness without going full race car. So that's not necessarily a bad deal. I know in the C5 it was really just different sway bars, and that was about it. Different cooler, something to consider for later cars. But as far as the Z06 goes and the base coupe has a lot going for it, and if you're really honest, is a better car for the majority of Corvette buyers. This list is also true of people that have modified their Corvettes, and especially as they start getting a little bit older here, what you find is a lot more modified Corvettes in some way, and unfortunately most people modify them to be more race car like. So those cars are going to start to match some of the things I'm saying about the Z06 as far as impracticality and, you know, really making it not ideal for a daily driver. Again, what I'm talking about is just the base coupe as it's designed and sold. So with those performance parts, especially the wheels and suspension, you're getting a vehicle that's not as comfortable to drive. You're getting a vehicle that's going to be rougher on bumps, a little bit harsher, something that is, you know, just a little bit more fatiguing for long trips, road trips, stuff like that, that make it, you know, less ideal. Combined with, at least in the newer models, you're getting, in conjunction with the new, more powerful engine, you're also getting a different final drive rear gear setup. So it has better acceleration and is a faster car, at least to 0 to 60, but the fuel mileage is again suffering. So that's not something to overlook, and you have to be really honest with yourself if that's necessary. This car itself is plenty fast, I assure you. Especially if you turn off some of the electronics and play with some of the settings, traction control settings, you can get a lot more power out of this car than you think it has when you first get in one. This car is already capable of far more than you're able to legally do on the streets. The coupe was designed with a top speed of 175 miles an hour. And although that's kind of difficult to get to, obviously, still significantly faster than it needs to be. Acceleration is right at 5 seconds. With any, you know, modern performance mods, you can get it well under that if you choose to. So there's nothing wrong with the coupe itself. All that said, it is very easy to modify the base car to be exactly what you want it to be. If you want more comfortable suspension, there's an option for that. If you want slightly more race car like suspension, there's options for that. If you want to go full-blown race car, you can still do that with a, you know, base coupe. So you don't need the Z06 to get you there. The extra money you're spending on the Z06 does get you a lot for that purpose, but it's only for that purpose. You're giving up all the other abilities that make this car what it is. So unless you can honestly say that you live on a racetrack and that's the only place you take your car, to answer the question, is the Z06 better than the coupe? Absolutely not. Real quick, if you don't mind smashing that thumbs up button, really helps us out, hitting that like button, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already so you can be notified of more content. We have new videos at least weekly, if not more. So as always, we appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for more, and we'll be back.